All right. We here. I thank everybody for coming and joining us on our first episode of Confessions Podcast. And we are so thankful for you to be here. My name is Pastor Duddley. I'm with my team here. What's going on, y'all?
What's up?
What's going on, everybody? What's going on?
We good. It's a spicy night, man.
Yo, it's been a spicy last couple of hours, 24 hours.
Absolutely.
So let me start off from the jump, right? So this is initiative that we're doing in the Northeastern Conference, and we're starting to try to create new and relevant content for not just us as constituents, but for everybody who's able to tune in. And we're thankful that this platform is a little bit more age range targeted, whatever. But we're looking forward to seeing what's going to happen. So shout out to a couple of other conferences that have done like good podcasts, like Latasha over at Allegheny East and Pastor Wade and the Roundtable podcast they do. But for us here at NEC, we're doing Confessions. And I just want to just let everybody give y'all an opportunity to shout yourselves out. Let the world know who you guys are. So I'll start to person on my left, but whatever. I'm gonna start with Ingrid. Ingrid, shout out.
All righty. Good night, everybody. I'm Ingrid Pierre. What can I say? I'm a member of Flatbush. I work with the youth department. I'm all about youth and young adult ministry. And I'm just happy to be here tonight as a part of this conversation.
Awesome. I'm moving down to my brother from Boston. Well, not from Boston, but he's in Boston.
In Boston, not from. That's how you get people in trouble. Love Boston, but not from Boston. From New York. Yeah, good to be with you, Pastor Cadet, pastor of the Cambridge Seventh-day Adventist Church, and just excited for this conversation. I think that a lot of people have a lot of strong feelings, emotions, and it's got a good opportunity to process and to work through some things.
Yeah, for real. And finally, yo, the main event.
Why you guys put me up like that, Duddley?
So I thought about this, and I thought about this episode, and I hit up Pastor Cadet. I'm not gonna call you Pastor Cadet throughout this whole podcast. I'm just letting you know this right now.
I got you.
So it's just everybody knows if I say E is Pastor Cadet.
There
so
we go.
I hit up E and I said, yo, we got to do this thing, man. And I was like, the first person that we need, the person that I need is this woman of God right here. Woman of God right here is who I needed. And so I was like, yo, this can't happen. We can't have this conversation without having the queen. And so, Queen, introduce yourself for people who don't already know you.
Hello, everyone in Northeastern Conference. I am the Amanda Seals of this conference.
Wow.
Oh, boy.
My name is Pastor Michelle Mota. I go by Pastor Michelle. I am definitely the senior pastor of the Brownsville Seventh-day Adventist Church in Brooklyn. And I'm also the assistant ministerial director of our conference. Don't tell nobody, because after what I say tonight, they may be like, well, what is she doing in that position? And I'm just excited to be here. Fun fact before we get started, Duddley.
Yeah.
Did you know that I have known Edsel Cadet since 2011? Like, we have been friends forever. So if we go at each other tonight, that's probably why. So
That sounds like a setup.
I know, right?
That sounds
I'm
like
over
a
here
setup.
getting warnings now.
No.
Yo, so I kind of feel like you got some stories that you can tell us.
Listen,
But I won't.
exactly, and neither will I. We both listen. Whatever happened back there, we just leave it in, right?
What
That's
happens in Berrien stays
Stays in Berrien. Stays in
Well,
Berrien.
I've known Ingrid since I was 16, maybe 15. Well, I've known Ingrid, and I've known E my entire life.
Yeah,
I love this. I love this connection.
Yeah,
I love this.
So we here, and the topic that we have is the latest thing that's going around. I feel like everybody's talking about this today. Statuses have gone, comments after comments has been given about this whole thing that happened at the Oscars yesterday, and I think that we should never, especially as people in the church, never shy away from allowing things that are relevant and finding ways for us to gain principles out of them. And so this is not just an opportunity for us to talk. Maybe it is, but I do feel like that there are some lessons that we can garner from this. Everybody got a bit of an opinion, right? So I kind of want to hear from you. Now I know some of you guys have already posted some things. I haven't posted anything. I haven't read any of your ideas or what you guys have to say. But I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts. So for those people who are completely clueless, you just followed Northeastern Conference. You just saw this pop up. You saw these group of millennials just show up on the screen. You're like, what is this? What is this mess? So what's going on in the Oscars is, Chris Rock, comedian, comes up. He does his little spiel. He's doing his little jokes to whomever, and then he mentions Will and a joke towards Will, and Will Smith sort of laughs about it, and then he goes to his wife and mentions a joke about her related to her hair or lack thereof. And where in the moment, I'm not gonna lie to y'all, I wasn't watching the Oscars. I was watching the Celtics beat down Minnesota.
Nobody was watching the Oscars.
People care.
Oh, you were watching?
I was watching.
Oh, okay.
I was watching.
All right. Y'all were watching.
The ladies were watching.
Okay.
So
she was watching basketball. Okay.
See, exactly. So I didn't watch, but I was on Twitter because basketball and Twitter is synonymous. So I'm on Twitter and everybody's going crazy over what happened. I'm like, yo. So I try to switch over, couldn't find it. Then I obviously stay on Twitter because Twitter is like a cesspool. And I found out what happened, and so apparently Chris Rock mentions Jada's hair, or through a G.I. Jane or G.I. Joe.
G.I. Jane comment.
G.I. Jane
comment or whatever. And she didn't take a liking to it, but when I saw the clip, Will started to laugh about it.
Will laugh.
She kind of rolled her eyes about it. The camera cut to Chris. You didn't see the interaction that was going on between Will and Jada or whatever. And all you saw was Chris say, uh-oh. And you see, Will get up on stage and then yaka.
Yeah.
And then the world changed.
Yeah.
So
for now,
what are your initial thoughts? What's your initial thoughts? What hit you? What hit you, figuratively speaking? When that happened, when you saw it, when you saw it, what happened? What's the first thing you thought?
First thing I thought was Nyasha needs to see this. She was right next to me, and I was like, "Nah, you gotta watch this because I can't believe I just saw what I just saw." Because I'm trying to reconcile Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Pursuit of Happiness, Ali, all of that with what I just saw. And it didn't look staged, especially because I saw the clip where he sat down. And so at first I was stunned. I was like, okay, what's the stage? But then when he sat down, he started speaking. And he started telling him, like, keep my wife's name out your mouth.
Yeah.
I was like,
out your, you missed a word, but go ahead.
Yeah, I did miss a word. So
I bleeped it.
There we go. Thank you. Appreciate it. When I saw that, I was like, okay, this is serious. But honestly, I wasn't mad at Will. Like, I know a lot of people are upset with Will, and I'm not saying that what he did was right. I'm not saying that at all. What he did was wrong, but I wasn't mad at Will because I understand. So that was my reaction. I'm not going to give you any more just yet. That was my reaction. I was like, Will gets the benefit of the doubt in my book. I like Will. So I stopped there.
Ingrid, what about you? How you feel?
So I didn't get the full magnitude of what happened until somebody sent me a foreign clip. Because the foreign clips had everything. They didn't cut anything out. And I was like, dang, that's what happened for real, for real. I thought it was a little bit too much, right? I want to be defended and all that great stuff, but I felt like it was overboard. And for me, it was compounded when I heard Will's acceptance speech when he won his Oscar. He sounded like a man that is in deep pain.
Mm-hmm.
And his reaction was not really toward Chris Rock, but maybe just a buildup of so many other things that have been going on with him and Jada.
Mm-hmm.
So that was me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
What happened down there, Amanda? You looking like...
Yo, Michelle, talk to us. What's up?
So a couple things, okay? My first reaction, of course, was like, you better defend your wife. You better protect your wife. You better get up there and lay hands on Chris because my, person came out.
Right.
Then, what exactly did he protect by doing that? What exactly did he declare to people about his wife's condition, which 9 times out of 10, I'm sure Chris Rock didn't know because I didn't know she was struggling.
I didn't know.
I knew.
Also, I think about Will Smith from a Def Comedy Jam perspective, okay? The first thing about the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is, now this is a story all about how my life got twisted upside down, right?
Right.
I was playing some b-ball out,
outside of the school, right?
Mm-hmm.
When a
Where a
couple of guys,
yeah.
okay.
It was up to no good.
Started.
So
Mm-hmm.
could it be that Will Smith's character is to react first and think later? Could it be that it's something that he never worked on? It's really hard to speak on a person's like mental health or where they are, right. but you cannot. There are just certain things that line up too well to just dismiss them. Will Smith has always been a compulsive, like he's very compulsory. Like he sees something, he's kind of like reacts and he snaps and whatever. And it might be because he plays all these different types of roles. It might be because he's a Hollywood superstar and he's like always casted as these like crying and going through stuff people. But I just think that Will was out of control because it was a joke. And the truth is, in our era, the way that we grew up listening to the likes of Martin and Bernie Mac and these people who would clown you for just sitting in the front row, and they would play your hairstyles, they would play your outfits, they would play everything about you. And all of a sudden, Will is sensitive to a guy we was laughing at with the basketball game. Like, what is that?
Yeah.
So I don't think, and I was agreeing with some people who were like, that's the kind of energy he needed on the Red Table Talk. Like, he didn't need that at the Oscars. I mean,
yes.
it was just, he had a human moment. And I understand that. But it was like, wow. This is why Kanye wasn't invited. I'm just saying. All right, I'm going to give it back to you.
Yeah, first off, I thought it was scripted.
Yeah.
I thought it was an act.
I thought so too at first.
Initially, yeah.
When I saw him sit, I was like,
oh, yeah. This is real. When you saw Lupita's face go, oh, you were like, oh.
Exactly.
First of all, he embodied every Black woman everywhere. Like,
right.
Okay.
So it was the audience that made me aware, like, oh, nah, this is for real.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so instantly my mind went to that this is 2 different stories. Mm-hmm. And I think people are trying to find this one event and trying to make it into, because it happened all at once, that people need to respond once. And I think these are 2 different stories. There's one, the pain that Will has gone through and got him to a point where he was able to get up on that stage.
Right.
That's one thing. And then there is the way in which he handled the pain. Mm-hmm. And I think that there are 2 conclusions that you can come from it. And I think it's okay to find 2 conclusions. based on it. And so for me, initially, I thought it was scripted until I saw the audience. And instantly, when I saw it was actually real, I said, okay, Will got an issue. Well, Will's been having issues for a minute. Will has an issue, and I don't know if this is the best way for him to solve it.
But I think Chris Rock has an issue too. I don't think it's just Will.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. All right, so if you think he has do you think Chris is doing that because it's Chris, or do you think Chris is doing that because that's his profession, or do you believe that is intertwined?
I think it's intertwined. I think that, and I'm responding not only to Chris, but to a lot of statuses that I saw where people were like, it's just a joke, it's just a joke. And it's like, cool, you want to call it a joke, but there is a real impact that it's having on people. And just the same way we used to do the dozens on the streets, you know that if you cross the line, that joking could switch to fighting real quick. Now, again, this is not me condoning fighting, but it is a reality that you can't just say whatever you want and expect nobody's going to respond. You know, you do a little bit too much, and somebody who runs out of jokes is going to resort to fists. In fact, my brother was telling me, he was like, look, fights don't just happen out of nowhere. It starts with words. And people act like, yo, I can just say whatever I want and there should be no violence. And I'm not condoning violence, but I also don't want us to be naive to the rules of the streets, to the rules of life. Like, people do resort to violence. And if you just open up your mouth and say what you want to say, like, this can happen. So my whole thing with Chris Rock is like, look, I don't think that you have to demean people to be funny. That's number one. I think you can be funny without putting people down, that it doesn't have to be at people's expense. However, if you're going to put somebody's name in your mouth, then you should know something about them. Like, when a comedian does research on a person to crack some jokes, they learn about the person. So if whether or not he knew about the alopecia or not, that's his responsibility. He decided to talk about her hair, and that's his responsibility now to do enough research to know what he's talking about. And let's not forget, it's a Chris Rock who had the documentary called Good Hair.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why I respected it even more.
But that's exactly why I don't feel like he meant that much by the statement, right? And I get it. Okay, I get it. People may have felt like he went too far, but if he says he did not know she had alopecia, everyone doesn't do research. Okay, I'm an educator, right? I go to work with students, and students say some of the most degrading and demeaning things. Now, we know Chris Rock is an adult, right? Fine. But I can't just be like, well, this is the streets. I work in the hood. So if you say something to me, I'm going to choke you out. Like, it doesn't work like that. We are professionals. And Will Smith was sitting in the front because he was up for an Oscar for Best Actor. So at the end of the day, he was there in a professional role. He was there as a part of his job. This was not the streets. And so sometimes we need to leave the streets out of our profession. We could all be street. We could all be hood. But if you're standing in the pulpit and somebody says, oh, you know what, Pastor E? Yo, you whack. You can't walk down and be like, you know what? It's on. Like, there's a place.
We're breaking bread well during the communion.
Exactly. Like, you know what? Come on.
I mean, I'm not saying that he should have done it, but I also think that people have to recognize, like, you're standing behind a platform or podium or whatever does not make you immune to these things. And
immune to what exactly? Immune to criticism, I get that.
Right.
Immune to a slap in your face.
Immune to look, you can't cross the
know
line.
What the Academy Awards messed up at? They should have had the poinsettias that we use at Pell. Right?
That's it.
Protected. Had you had the poinsettias up. Have the poinsettias up. They protect the people on the stage.
That's it. They're gonna have them next year. They're gonna have them.
After Kanye rolled up on Girl, and he said Beyonce should have won that award, they should have had poinsettias and security guards sitting right there at the front. But I'm gonna let you keep going, Edsel. Finish your point.
My thing is, you can't cross the line and then try to dictate how other people respond to how you cross the line. That's all it is. Again, I'm not condoning Will's violence or any of that. Right. All I'm saying is, men know if I open my mouth to talk about somebody's wife, and it's like, oh, but you went too far in response, then I wasn't ready for the heat. I should have kept my mouth shut. So again, I'm not condoning it, but there's a code. We understand this because we're protectors. We're groomed to be protectors. So now once you come and you attack mine, oh no, all bets are off. Now you pray that I remain composed, right? But any of us who've ever walked on the Ave or Flatbush or Mattapan or wherever, and if you've ever been walking with your partner, you know that at any moment somebody could say something crazy. And then now it is the man's responsibility to say something, to do something, to protect your honor, whether that is right or wrong. How he does it is up for debate. But we feel that pressure. So now my man is there trying to, styled up. He's ready to receive his award, and his wife. And we have no idea how many tears she's cried over this, how insecure she is about these things. And now he's going
to get in a second. We
laughed. Will laughed. He laughed at the joke, and then he blew up. So it's like, wait a minute. He blew up because of his wife's eye roll. It was very clear that that's why he kind of went up there.
Yeah.
And then he was all offended all of a sudden.
Right.
And I just sat there like, did we not hear Dave Chappelle, who literally got canceled by an entire community of people because they didn't like his jokes? Because I always say it, right? I learned this from a friend of mine, and I always repeat it. There's a little joke in every joke, because most jokes are true.
Little truth in every joke.
And so, no, that's the normal saying. The normal saying is there's a line of truth in every joke. But my friend says there's a little joke in every joke.
Mercy.
Most jokes are just facts that are said in a comedic way.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that him talking about her hair was meant in distaste, especially because he made the documentary, as Ingrid pointed out, good hair. He knows how women are about their hair. So he made a comment. He didn't even say the whole phrase. He literally just said, oh, Jada.
Looking forward. Yeah.
Looking forward to watching G.I. Jane 2.
Yeah.
Right.
And she immediately was like, eye roll.
Yeah.
She didn't even know what he was going to say.
Right.
He could have said she's going to redo the Matrix, like her role of the Matrix. He could have said a million different things. She automatically took it to that place. Not everybody knows everybody's business, and not everybody is reading everybody's business. There is a legitimate thing that he probably did not know, that she had alopecia, and even if he did, we used to make fun of people that would talk with their mouth sideways before we knew it was cerebral palsy.
Mercy.
We used to make fun of people who had balding spots, not knowing that they had suffered from skin conditions. We used to make fun of everything. Nothing used to be off limits. And
dark skin, nothing. We know this.
Sensitive generation that now, you talk about something, you're ready to catch these hands. And my question is this. If it were Billy Crystal that made that joke, would you all respond the same way? If it was a Black woman like Wanda Sykes, or another comedian like Tiffany Haddish, who I personally think is very distasteful in comedy. But if it had been her, if it had been The Rock who made that comment, would he have gone up and done the same thing? That's really my question. And I can't speak to whether he would have or he wouldn't have, but let's just think about the fact that there are a lot of things at play that allowed him to feel like he could get up and respond to someone else in a physical manner. He will forever be noted for the Oscar winner that put his hands on another Black brother 45 minutes before he got his Oscar. Like, seriously?
And so for me, I'm sort of like dwelling in the space of where exactly is my venom going towards? And can I compartmentalize, each particular action and find fault in them, and not necessarily saying that one has to equate to another. So that's the reason why, like for you, E, I'm saying to myself, okay, let's say someone disrespected Gina the way that, okay, I'm literally trying to put myself in Will's shoes here.
Right. What are our options?
What are my options?
A lot of them.
And so now here's the question. Now I have a lot of options, but based on who I am and or the person who I choose to be, those options become limited. It's not like I don't have the options.
Mm-hmm.
But in my options, I choose to have limited options.
Mm-hmm.
And in pose the next question, which I have to get to hear from y'all is, so Will got up and he chose violence.
He chose violence.
He sat back down.
Mm-hmm.
And how you think Jada felt?
We don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, we didn't see her face.
Jada didn't sit him down.
So that's my thing, because you're not did he do it for him, or did he
I don't think he did it for him.
He didn't do it for him. He was laughing at the joke.
Exactly.
He did it for his ego.
And so for me, I actually feel like he did do it for him.
Yes.
Really?
I feel like he was going through some stuff. No, don't get me wrong. On the initial, he was still in the mode of celebrity. I'm supposed to laugh. I laugh at everything. But the second he probably saw his wife. We can't see it because the camera cut off. The second he saw his wife, I don't know if he was as much triggered about how she looked as much as what that look triggered in him, about what he's gone through for the last X amount of yada yada, that made him want to get up and respond the way he responded. Because then when he got back down, he sat back down. The question that I've seen throughout the entire day today is what he did defense of her? And is there any other button that I can choose? Defense of my wife. If somebody does that to Gina, can I choose any other button and still feel as if I defended my wife?
I've heard this.
That's the question.
I've heard this. There's not always an excuse, but there's always a reason, right? Will had a reason, obviously, for what he did. Yeah. We don't know what that reason was. We can't even speculate to what that reason was.
Right.
Because we don't have the facts in front of us to be able to speculate on human emotion.
Right.
And response. And I agree with a couple of comments that I've been reading on the side, especially Andrew's. And I think Chanel said this too. And Christelle, you might grow. So and I think Stanley said it too, that we don't know the dynamics of their home. Right. We don't know the kind of pressure that Will has been under, even though he's made it clear at the Red Table Talk when he went a year ago, he had said that he was under an enormous amount of pressure because he was trying to be this person for Jada and it was never enough. He said that at the table talk. He said that the idea that he wanted to have with her was not the husband that he could be for her. So he consistently said and shows, and I'm sure that his autobiography probably says it too, that he feels like he's failed her as a husband because he hasn't been the husband that she's wanted him to be.
Because he can't be Tupac.
Taught to be. So I think that that's kind of, we can just, look at the situation and understand. But at the end of the day, Will Smith, not Jada, Will, stood up on his feet, took all the steps that were necessary to get up to Chris Rock's face, swung his hand back, and swung it forward. And no one was holding Will's hand physically. No one had a gun to Will's back physically. No one is responsible for what Will did except Will. I teach this as a cognitive facilitator at the jail. I teach this. If you make a decision to do something, there will be consequences for what you do. Yeah. And at the end of the day, the people who put you in that position are not sitting in jail. You are.
You are. Yeah.
Because you made a decision and now there are consequences for what you did.
Okay, so now if I could just jump in, right? A couple of things. I think he did it for his ego, right? And what you said, Michelle, is a part of that because number one, and it happens in a lot of relationships, right? If you don't communicate and understand your partner and what they expect of you, a lot of times your actions and behavior that you feel you're doing for them are contrary to what they even want from you.
Yeah.
So we don't know how she felt, but maybe she didn't appreciate his response. I don't know. I'm speculating. The other thing is, what were his consequences? And that's the other problem that we have nowadays in society. Because like today, some students came to school and they're like, oh man, I'm about to be on some Will Smith, right? Because they saw him get up do what he did, sit back down, and then get an Oscar.
Like a boss.
They're talking about stripping it though. They are talking about that.
Yeah, I did see
I
that.
hope they know.
Okay. I mean, go ahead.
To Michelle's point, though, yes, there are consequences for Will Smith's actions, but that also applies to Chris Rock. There are consequences for Chris Rock's actions. You don't escape because you have the mic.
Being a comedian?
Yes, actions?
It's not just being a comedian. Look, I really believe this. I believe that when you have the mic and you decide to talk about people, you have a responsibility to be well informed. When you have the mic, you have a responsibility to. And the thing is that these comedians don't just come up with these jokes on their own. They have a team. And when Gap makes a mistake and releases a hoodie with a monkey on it, and a black boy, we roast them because they don't know what they're doing. When another company does something and they mess up and they don't have enough diversity on their board, we roast them because they don't know what they're doing. Whoever his team was that helped him craft the jokes, that told him to go after her hair without letting him know she's got a condition, that's his and his team's fault. They've assumed responsibility. They were misinformed or ill-informed or uninformed.
Wasn't there a little bit of assumption there, Edsel? I'm sorry. Just real quick.
What you mean? The standard is the same. The standard
is actually coming out with a movie called G.I. Jane.
Who's coming out with a movie?
She is.
I don't think she is.
I thought she was. Is she not?
I'm not I need to say something to that, right? Edsel, right? Yes. Let's go back. I watched the Oscars, right?
Okay.
Regina King had a segment earlier in the show where she came out and she's like calling up single men, right? You know, to take them backstage to give them COVID tests, okay? And then she's like, oh, well, you know what? You come to, Jada gave me permission, whatever. Everyone knows about the whole August Alsina thing and there, you know, all the speculation, open relationship. And Regina King made a joke directly toward the openness of their marriage. And ain't nobody slap her. Yeah, so my thing is, how do we pick and choose
when
we're so sensitive about?
Yes.
There's a double standard. There's a double standard. You can say certain things about a man and get away with it. And you say the same thing about a woman, and the woman doesn't have the responsibility to defend the man. But the man has a responsibility. Again, if we're walking on the Ave and somebody says something reckless, you're walking on Flatbush Avenue and somebody says something reckless, Ingrid, you do not expect that. You gotta handle it yourself.
Blue Hill.
Blue Hill.
I'm a different kind of woman, so.
Okay, he assaults him, and I'm sorry. Correction, she's not G.I. Jane too, but she did look like me more. Yeah. Anyway, so, but so here's the thing.
Where's Will Smith? Where's Will Smith right now? Where is he? You better lock your door, Michelle. You better lock your door. Because if he sees this, nobody's safe.
There's still, Michelle. There's still a question I need you to answer though in this argument, Edsel, because what you're suggesting is that the comedic profession has the responsibility to parse every joke.
Yes.
Seinfeld.
No. Like do you watch comedians in cars getting coffee? Seinfeld counts the words of every joke. When they break down the science of how they craft their jokes, it is intentional. It's not extemporaneous.
I understand that there's a strategic way in which of how a joke is delivered. And certain cadences and certain ways and phrases of how you can say a joke and you make it either funny or not funny. I understand that. There's a science behind it. But you're saying that there needs to be some preconceived work, some research that needs to be done for the sake of taking care of how somebody. Name me the comedian in all of the 90s that you've ever seen in Def Comedy Jam. Ever worried once about how somebody felt about their joke?
I'm not saying that that it's their job to worry about how other people feel. I am saying though that if you're going to talk about somebody, you should be informed about what's going on.
Why?
That's for the purpose of knowing where the line is, so that if you choose to cross it, you've chosen to cross it. But it's not I had no idea. That's what the team is for. Every correspondence dinner, they do the research. They sit down for hours. They craft these jokes. This is not Def Jam comedy. This is the Oscars.
That's a joke. That's the joke.
I'm so glad you said that, Edsel.
It's the Oscars. You don't think that this was written?
What? Wait. This is the Oscars. So
yes.
White people, and I agree, Kevin, because Seinfeld is not a good comedian.
Anyway. Y'all are wild now. This is taking on a whole nother level right now.
Oh no. Seinfeld's gonna come through my door too. Y'all need to just
exactly.
Put some poinsettias at my door. Listen.
Yo, we gotta mail some poinsettias to Brownsville SDA. She needs them cyberborded. She needs them.
Don't play with me. Here's the thing. No, for real, guys. For real.
Shady B.
Why do we like to create boundaries that are required because of the audience color? Let's go there real quick.
Oh, Lord.
Okay, I see what you're doing.
The Oscars.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It was very evident that don't spotlight me, Duddley.
Go ahead. Zoom.
All right, whatever. Listen. It was very evident that the Academy Awards is structured for a certain type of person. Okay?
Right.
Which is why
Oscar so white.
For all the movies that Will Smith has made, this is his first Academy Award win. Right? I would argue that in The Pursuit of Happiness, he should have won it.
Yes.
But so it annoys me that we have to change who we are to fit a room and allow them to be comfortable in our presence. Like we are parading monkeys for them to be entertainment to them. I don't agree with that. Chris Rock is the type of comedian who says things like that, right? Chris Rock shot off the cuff at Jada, most likely because of the relationship that he shares with them. It is very likely that Chris Rock was just being exactly who he is. But because it was on a stage of people whom Black people have been too busy to trying to impress since the beginning of time, we felt like, oh my gosh, I feel so bad for the Black community. Please, those white people be doing crazy things and they are not worried about Black thought. As a matter of fact, I would even go as far to say that the only network that covered it even a little bit was CNN, because Fox is busy trying to talk about the war and all the other news channels are too. They're not worried about what Black people are doing because we don't matter unless it has to do with their money. So I
hear that.
Can I just say?
Look, the only thing I'll say.
Go ahead.
The only thing I'll say is this: look, as a speaker, I study comedians because comedians are master storytellers, right? If you watch the show on HBO, Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, they break down the science behind how they craft their jokes. So I'm not speaking from like my opinion. Like Chris Rock has been on the show. He has explained his method, his process. Does he do some extemporaneous stuff? Yes, definitely. But there's a lot of intentionality. There's a lot of research that goes. They write notebooks worth of jokes and throw it out, or go test it on the road, and then go to the public stage with stuff that works. They don't use a lot of extemporaneous stuff. That's all I'm saying. So with that in mind, knowing that they do a lot of research, and for him to have missed this detail to not know it, I'm like, that's on you. That's your job. That's your job. Your job is not to just be funny. Your job is to know the content. It's to know the content as well.
Right. For the purpose of making sure that you're funny, just don't offend people.
You know what? Heard about that? If that's your job, look, as a Seventh-day Adventist pastor, regardless of what I believe personally, there's a certain creed that I have, right? The church tells me what I can and can't agree with. So even if I don't agree with something that the church teaches, when I teach it from my pulpit, I teach it the way that the church taught me to teach it, right? So if I'm going to be careful about offending people with the things that I say, it really does limit my ability to what I say.
Get your message across.
Unknowingly, this past Sabbath.
You better talk, girl.
This past Sabbath, right? I was preaching a sermon about baggage. And I was saying that maybe some parents in my audience are responsible for the drugs and alcohol and things that their children are into. And you know what I did? I turned around and I said, could it be curtains? And I preached that entire portion of my sermon staring at the curtains.
Yes.
Why?
Because I could still say what I need to say and not have to look at anybody in the eye, but it was still said in the room.
Right.
And I believe that though I have a specific job as a pastor to do, which is to give the word of God unadulterated by your puny emotions, I believe that a comedian also has a creed that they stand by. And there really isn't a lot of things that are that they can't say, that are out of reach. Again, he may not have known. Kevin.
I'm sorry, I had to put the
Kevin, he may not have known that she had this condition.
Right.
He did not say alopecia GI Jane 2 starting soon.
Right.
Like, come on. Can we just take a minute to appreciate the comedic genius behind his joke and understand that if we were uncomfortable with it, it might be more to do with us than to do with him.
Mercy. Yo, my homegirl Emma just put this up. Yo, that's so true. Can we take a moment to recognize the amount of self-composure Chris has? Not only did he get slapped, but then cursed out on national television, and he still held it together.
That's the Oscar.
Yep.
And the best actor goes to.
Yeah, then you can take it from Will and give it to Chris.
Yo, he didn't even rub it. He didn't even rub his teeth.
From him. Look at his face.
He didn't even rub it.
No, because the fact of the matter is, right? Let's go back to the beginning. Will laughed, right? A lot of times jokes are made, somebody's in the room is gonna be offended. Just like a lot of the times you preach, someone is not gonna agree, someone's gonna be offended, someone's gonna have something to say. It is what it is. You can't please everyone, but what you do about how you feel, that's on you. Yeah. It's on you. So no matter how much people feel like, oh, Chris said something wrong, the fact of the matter is the person that stepped into a role and did something that was inappropriate, they are the ones that need to be held accountable. Period.
Can I just read Christelle's comment out loud? Will would have been on the floor. Christelle's my girl.
Yes.
She's my spirit animal.
Yes.
Look. So two things are happening right here. One, Edsel's listening and he's not agreeing. He's shaking his head, but I know Edsel's convinced because he had to put his own comment in the chat.
He's gonna go on Comedian with Cards with Seinfeld.
So yeah. Once you put up, once you use Seinfeld as your example, it was over. But all right, I gotta switch gears a little bit before we get into the actual Christianity of it. I want to switch gears and really land towards the dynamic now of
Will got hands.
Of whether this is a defense towards your wife. And Ingrid, Michelle, I really need to hear from you here. How do you feel? And in that situation, what would you have wanted your man to do for you in that moment?
If you had the condition and you were insecure about it,
right?
Because she's already stated that it's a struggle for her. She wrapped her hair. Like, this is not just a condition. This is something that bothers her.
I mean, I'll start.
What do you want your man to do?
I'll start, right? In my younger days, okay, I would have wanted him to throw them hands. In my younger days.
In my naive days.
Yes, but now, as a grown woman, I would have wanted him to affirm me and let me know that he was going to deal with it, right? Because at the end of the day, I need a grown man, right? And a grown man that has dealt with himself and with his issues would not handle it like that.
Yeah,
he's gonna affirm me first, and he's gonna say, "Baby, I got you," and I'm gonna trust that however he deals with it, will have me. That's what I would want.
My alopecia filled head. Go ahead, girl. Talk about it. Listen.
You messed her up. She was in a groove.
No.
I'm with Ingrid.
You feel me? We on the same wavelength. I feel it.
What exactly is Will defending? Huh? Somebody
Look at
tell
Valerie.
me, what is he defending? Because here it is.
I know Valerie too. Look at
Let's go, Valerie. Let's go, Valerie. Have that money under the bed.
And when he comes out, I'll be like, really? Because that's not the kind of defense that was required in that moment. Not the right time, not the right place.
No.
The problem is, right? We look at what Will did and we're just like, oh, he had his girl's back. Will, wrong energy. Because your wife has been making you look like an idiot for years. 4 years. She has been making you look like a fool. She made you sit across from her at a red table talk, knowing that you were tired, because we'll talk about that table talk later.
What up, Court?
Will was like, listen, I was not crying. I was just tired because we had like a 14-hour flight we were on, and we had gone through all this stuff, and they're like, sit down, let's just record this real quick. And he was like, I was exhausted. And then you had to sit there, this exhausted man who had not slept from Philly, who knows how to throw hands apparently, and he's sitting like this as your wife is telling you a new word in the dictionary. I had an entanglement. And he just sat there. He was just like,
y'all see this?
Wait.
Continue.
Wait.
He's building an argument. Go ahead.
No, listen to me. That is not how Black women need to be protected. My husband lays hands on somebody, I'm going to be like, no, we at $4,000 because you just could not. I'd rather him say, I would, you know how sweet it would have been to see Will Smith turn to Jada when she rolled her eyes and leaned in and grabbed her and kissed her on her head. That would have meant more than him getting up to hit somebody. And now everybody's looking at them like, Will, is that a little bit too late? Considering that the public knows everything about your relationship now. And what's weird is how hard they worked to keep their relationship private. And then Jada does this red table talk, and it's like all of their business is on the streets at one time. This is not the way to defend your wife, kid.
No.
This is not the way. But apparently Edsel has something different to say.
No, I'm here to take notes right now. I'm listening.
Confessions. This is confessions. You can't just, sit there and internalize it. There's
what's on your mind?
What's on your mind, brother?
Y'all heard Michelle. Michelle said that he just sat there. That is the pressure men are under. During the red table talk, she was telling him, and he just sat there. That is the dilemma that we find ourselves in when stuff like this happens. Here are Will's options. 1, if he tries to heckle Chris Rock, you lose in that battle. You're not funny enough. You can't go that route, right? 2, if you stay silent, you do nothing. Your wife might look at you like, yo, you have nothing to say. You have no response. Or even if she doesn't, the internal shame of like, man, because we've all felt that, right? Where we missed the moment and we're like, I should have said this. I should have said that. I should have. And then you have to live with that regret, right? So there's that route. That's not, there's no win over there, right? If he gets up and he hits Chris Rock, yes, he's wrong. Violence is not the answer.
Right.
This fourth option that Michelle just proposed, yes, very sweet, right? But I'll be honest, as men, we are not socialized to think, let me just kiss my girl on her forehead to make her feel more. Nah,
okay.
That idea.
Okay, but he was in the front row, right? What if he was like, nah, man, you went too far. You went too far, man. Right? Do you think Chris Rock would have received that? I think so.
Maybe. But here are the options for Will. If he says that, we would have been like, Tupac wouldn't have done that. August would have handled his business. Because listen, and this has been my whole thing. It's not just about Chris Rock's words. It's about our words for the past 20, 30 years, where no matter what Will Smith did, we played Will Smith. We never gave that man his respect. We had every joke about his marriage, about his life, about how he raises his kids, how he's soft. He's not Tupac. He'll never be Tupac. He'll never be enough. That we played a role in this. I don't think that he got here by himself.
So Chris Rock took the slap for all of us.
Chris
So-
Rock took the step
Because-
because words matter.
45 years.
Because words matter. Because and our words matter too. It's
But you
not
know
just
what
Chris
else
Rock's
matters?
word.
You know what else matters? Emotional intelligence. And you know what? Will had none last night. Because
yeah.
emotional intelligence would have told you, emotional intelligence would have told you, you are about to win an award tonight. Do you really want everything to be dusted under the rug because you had a moment where you allowed your emotions to overrule the intelligence that you have?
Right.
Because let's be real, his EQ was real high and his IQ was real low.
I agree.
Especially the way that he responded. He was laughing. He was in the moment.
Yeah.
And regardless of whether he just sat there, there are ways to uplift Black women. Cory Booker did it with Senator Ketanji.
But Cory Booker isn't getting dogged every year
Yeah,
for dating
but-
Rosario Dawson.
Hold on, folks, because I think it's important also to understand the setting that we're in. Because in other settings, it's a lot more easier to have different buttons that you could push. But the Oscars are created for these people, these superstars, these Hollywood stars, to sort of like be human a little bit in this moment. The reason why they have these comedians doing these jokes, they're doing it for the sake of saying that you superstars who are there in your greatest moment, we're clowning you just to bring you down a little bit to earth here. And so the setting is set up for any and everybody to fail. There isn't a single person who a comedian is up there about to make a joke on them that they're going to win. They're not. No one's going to win. And so in this sense, there's nothing that Will is that's going to do that is going to truly defend his wife in that situation. As you've mentioned, E, if he goes back at him and tries to heckle him, he's not as funny, right? If he goes and tries to be emotional, he may not necessarily do what
Same old soft Will,
do, right? Mm-hmm. If he goes up and he slaps him what he did, now he was wrong. So in that sense, if I know that all of my options that I have are not going to play well, then I have to pick the option that's best for me.
Aha.
No. And the best option for me isn't hitting him across the down, because that was my day. If none of them are going to work, if none of them are going to work,
and the option he chose, overshadowed everything.
It overshadowed everything, bro.
Period.
I agree. I agree. I agree.
Almost every radio station I listened to driving into Brooklyn this morning, I switched to every station and they talked about the same thing. No one talked about the historic win. They all talked about the slap.
Yes.
That's all that matters.
The slap was the winner.
Right.
He should have won an Oscar for that slap.
And to be honest with you, his speech at the end, nobody cared about the win. Nobody cared about the win.
Nobody remembers his speech. Nobody being under pressure.
He himself in the speech can't acknowledge. Like, you know who I felt bad for? I didn't feel bad for Jada. I felt bad for Venus and Serena.
Yeah.
I did too.
They sat there and they're like,
what do we do? I want to answer Ray Campbell. Edsel's not playing the devil's advocate.
I'm not playing devil's advocate. I'm trying to call our community higher because we want to look at Will hitting and not look at our words. And our words matter.
No.
Edsel's words matter too.
Wait.
Remember, Edsel, these are two different conversations. Remember, we're having two different conclusions.
They're related.
No,
Will did not get somebody put Will was emotionally constipated.
Yes, he was.
So all these years we've been on Will. We have been on Will. He didn't get here by himself. Nah. We all ushered him to this point.
There's a reason, but that's not an excuse.
Yeah.
And
I'm not saying it's an excuse. I'm saying it's a reason. That's all.
I wanted to answer Anderson, because Anderson Saran said it's beautiful that we have the luxury of hindsight. It's not that we are not agreeing that we've all made mistakes.
Absolutely.
We've all done dumb things in our lives.
Of course.
We all have done things that we are still, some of us, paying consequences for today. It's not that. It's that Edsel, you're right. As people of color, as Christian people, we ought to be called to a higher standard. And we ought not to make someone come out of their role because of the way that we talk to them. So I have had conversations with people about whether or not a woman should be smacked by a man if she is like in his face, yelling, screaming, you know, nicka this, nicka that, bleep, 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 bleep. I've been asked that question. Pastor Michelle, is there never a point in time where a man can shove a woman? Is there never a point in time if she is in his face, yelling at him, calling him all types of names, and saying all these things? Violence is never the answer.
I agree.
If Chris Rock would have shot back at will, let's just be real.
Mm-hmm.
It would be the equivalent of a woman slapping a man, because that's Chris Rock's strength compared to Will's. And the reality is, Chris would never beat Will. Right?
Exactly.
But, and I agree, there is never a time for a man to smack a woman. But there is also never a time for a man to need to smack another man. The fact that you stood there and felt like it was your right to put your hands on a human being is a problem.
No matter what he said.
Yep.
I understand that Will was under ginormous pressure, and you're absolutely right, Edsel. He popped like a popcorn. Mm-hmm. He was sick and tired of our jokes about him being soft. He's sick and tired of our jokes about him being complacent. He's sick and tired of our jokes about he doesn't run the relationship, Jada does. He's sick and tired of, he needs to leave this woman. She's constantly embarrassing him. I'm 1,000% sure that Will was fed up with everything, even probably Jada's eye roll. He was probably smacking Chris.
I'm tired of seeing her. Yep.
Oh, yes, yeah.
But at the end of the day, Will made a decision.
Yes, and he was wrong.
Right.
Anderson said, maybe answer 1 time out of 400.
Anderson wants to see Samson. That's what he wants to see. He wants to see Samson come through.
I'm just saying, it's insane that we have these crazy standards for people. You'd say a man can put his hand on a woman, but can you control yourself when it comes to another man? Mm-hmm. He attacked you with words, and you're right.
Thank you.
You're right, Edsel. That was an absolute attack. He threw a grenade at them.
True.
Yeah.
So
Will's response, unfortunately, was people are going to remember forever.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true too. That's 100% true.
So E, listen. Gina and I, we send the kids over to my parents' house. We head up to Boston. We go to so we're not going to a comedy club.
Mm-hmm. No.
Yeah, we're not going to a comedy club.
Cheesecake Factory, roller skating. That's it. Like nothing else. That's it. We're not going. We're not going. And I just want to be clear. I hope people aren't thinking Pastor Cadet is saying that there are situations where violence is okay. Violence is not the answer. But what I'm also saying is that using hands is not the only way to be violent. And I think that Chris Rock, even unintentionally, was violent towards Jada, and that there are consequences for our words. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
So no.
He was making a joke.
Yeah. And you know what?
He was making a joke.
Listen, right?
We didn't talk about Jada. No.
Yeah. I don't think it was his intention to be violent verbally, right? However, even in instances when someone does choose to be verbally abusive or violent, verbally whatever, it's our response that matters, right? Because unfortunately, this is the world that we live in, right? And that's never going to stop. There are always going to be people that find fault with us for whatever the case is. Your head too big, you too small, you too short, you too fat, you too ugly, you too black, you too light, whatever. It's our response that matters, because the words will never stop. This is the world that we live in. And so Will had a perfect opportunity, if he felt like what was being spewed was so violent, to really show how you handle it as a strong, intelligent Black man. And he didn't do that. He failed last night.
I agree.
He failed.
Okay.
I agree.
So we're with them. Let's land this plane here. I'm a firm believer that what makes us a peculiar people isn't necessarily the way in which we perform, as much as what we're convicted by. And so my sense in what makes me a Christian is in situations like this, where someone leans to their emotions, I lean towards Jesus. That's what makes me peculiar. I think differently because Jesus would tell you to offer the other cheek also. That's a weird concept. The ideology is weird. And so in a situation like this, what do we preach? What's the lesson that we come out of here? Well, from what I'm hearing, Edsel is mentioning the fact that violence comes in different forms.
Absolutely.
Now we can continue to debate the fact that in this particular situation, the comedian aspect throws this conversation in another loop. But let's say he wasn't a comedian and he was just a person that used his words. Words are a weapon.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be used to destroy people. When we walk away from this, if you're placing yourself in Will's shoes, what's the advice you're telling yourself? What's the thing you're wanting somebody to tell you? How are you keeping yourself off that stage?
Here's my issue. For real. All jokes aside. There are two types of situations. There's an in-your-face situation, and then there's a stop and think situation, right? That you can stop and actually think about it, right? Jada was obviously in pain.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't find what Chris said funny. And Will is sitting here between what I think a funny joke that other people found funny and his wife's pain and embarrassment.
Right.
Will made a choice that maybe most of us would have made, right? He chose violence, which is what social media talks about all the time, right? I choose violence. We say it all the time jokingly, but we're serious about it. My issue with this whole thing is, and I think this is what Edsel was trying to say in the beginning, and Edsel, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Both people are responsible for what they said. However, the actions of one overshadowed the actions of the other. Mm-hmm. Because God forbid, if Chris Rock had some sort of stroke in that moment,
Lord,
if his heart would have stopped in that moment,
right?
If Chris would have collapsed and smacked his head on the floor in that moment and not gotten back up, would people be like, oh, Will was just having a moment? Oh, it's okay. Will was just, he was just tired of people. Because it would have been assault.
Yeah. Well, it was assault, no matter what. Yeah, I hear you.
I'm just saying we like to minimize things because we're able to see them and say, oh, he was having a moment.
He's in pain.
We forgive him. That's fine. People have human moments all the time. But 85% of those people are currently locked up in jail for having human moments. So I think that we have to create a real, it's not about, oh, I'm glad that you guys have hindsight. That's not the problem. Because let me just tell y'all something real. As a woman, I get people who make fun of my hair every day. I get people who ask me questions about where I'm going and what I'm wearing every day. I have people who come at me and tell me that I shouldn't be a pastor because I'm a female all the time. And those things offend me and they're not jokes. But I don't get to throw my hands every time somebody says something to me that is disrespectful. And I understand there are days that I am here, up to here with the jokes and the comments and the backlash, but I don't have the right to put my hands on somebody just because I feel disrespected by what they said. And I can guarantee you that if Chris Rock was Chris Pratt, he wouldn't have responded like that. And that's really the problem. It's that he felt comfortable to attack his fellow man in a way that he would not have attacked his cousin. Yeah. If it would have been one of them. That's the problem.
I'd like to mention the importance of recognizing that this event is not in its own bubble. And we need to really, if we're walking away with any principles from this situation, we need to realize that my cause to sin, my cause to do something out of character, is not something that is just based within the moment, but it's built through time. And I believe that if we don't check the proverbial skeletons in our closet,
Absolutely.
and allow God to deal with what we're going through and put a lot of things in importance of where our mental health is, we might find ourselves subject to doing things things out of character and be judged for that moment, rather than recognizing it wasn't the moment that defined us. It was years of things that we continue to keep putting on the back burner.
Yep.
And I believe in that moment. That's why for me, when I saw him go across that stage, I didn't see that moment. I saw the last 25 years. I saw him always being played, always, not considered black enough. You're welcome to Miami, all you know what I'm saying? And best album, but he didn't curse in the album and all this different stuff. That's all I saw. And I saw that bubbling to the surface to the point where it's like, no, I will not be disrespected again. And how many of us, how many people have come out of character trying to defend an insecurity that they've dealt with over their entire lifetime?
Absolutely.
Struggled in trying to put on a facade in a moment to try to fix a narrative of yourself that you've had for X amount of years. We got to deal with the narratives, you know what I'm saying, and allow the narrative to be as important as the moments. Because if you're not dealing with your narrative, you're going to allow a moment's going to come that you didn't expect. Out of nowhere, you set up ready. You were sitting up there front row because you knew you were about to get the Oscar. You knew you were going to get Best Actor. Yeah. And let's not miss the best moment of the night. This dude's quote, Denzel's quote that he gave, that in your highest moment, in your greatest moment, that's when the devil shows up. In your greatest moment. And it's interesting because the devil knows what your narrative is.
Mm-hmm.
And in a moment that you didn't expect to come out of character, he'll allow that one thing to finally pop that balloon and you come out of character. And so for me, I've doing a lot of growing for myself, coming to an understanding of a lot of things that made me a person that did things out of character, trying to live a narrative, trying to play off a narrative that was said about me. No, I'm not this person, so let me do something that's out of character. We got to deal with that and put that in God's hands, and pray on that.
Absolutely. I was talking to somebody on Saturday and they said, Ingrid, I really enjoyed our conversation. Like, I want to hang out with you more. You do a lot of things, but you used to be really aggressive, right? And I told her, I'm like, well, that's because I had a lot of pain, a lot of insecurities. When you're walking around and people always have something to say, oh, you're so this, you're so that, you internalize it. Mm-hmm. And I had to get a lot of therapy to deal with me, not anybody else. Because at the end of the day, people are still going to make those comments, but my response is what is very different. And so that's what we need to really communicate and educate our communities about: our pain, our hurt, and how to deal with ourselves. Because as we've all said, when you react, you're not reacting to the person, you're reacting to your own pain. And that's just what it is.
That's so true. That's so true. The thing I'm taking away from this, go ahead, Michelle.
I just want to send a hug to Ray. Ray said he liked my hair. Ray, you stole my heart. Go ahead.
The thing I take away from this, I take away two things. The Bible says that a person who doesn't bridle their tongue is not spiritual. And because this Will's physical violence is overshadowing what Chris Rock said, that's the reason I'm highlighting what Chris Rock said, because a lot of us are reckless with our tongues. Michelle should not have to pastor with members coming out their face saying craziness to her. That should not be our reality. And it's something that we deal with and we tolerate and we normalize in our communities, and it's not okay. So just for our communities, like we just have to do better with how we communicate with one another, how we share our disagreements, or how we manage conflict with one another. It's just not okay for us to continue to say whatever we want to say about each other, whether it's gossip or it's a seemingly joke, or even how we contribute to the ether of what celebrities deal with when they go through embarrassing moments. Because as much as we feel the pressure when people talk about us, we have to deal with a few hundred, maybe a few thousand. The volume that Will Smith has to endure is millions, if not billions of that.
Wow.
We don't go through what he goes through. It's different. And as Christians, I always find it a shame when these things happen and we jump on the bandwagon with the jokes and the foolishness on social media, and we're not sensitive to the fact that there are people who, even though they're celebrities, even though they're in the public arena, they're real people. They have emotions. We cracked jokes on Chadwick Boseman when he showed up skinny, and we had no idea what that man was dealing with.
Talk about
we
that.
keep talking about people as if they don't have emotions, as if they're not children of God, and it's not right. I don't care how funny the situation is. We as Christians, especially on social media, we need to learn how to just shut up. We don't always have to have a comment for everything.
Yeah, for everything.
The keyboard is the mightiest weapon.
Exactly. You got these thumb warriors over here. The last thing I'll say is this. I think that this is a great opportunity for Will, because I don't think anybody thought that Will was capable of this, but I believe that God exposes us so that we can deal with some stuff that we didn't even know was within us. When we see the story of David and how he killed Uriah, we're like, yo, David flipped out. But there were signs that David was capable of this when he almost killed Nabal. We saw that sense of entitlement where it's like, yo, I finished protecting your sheep. I thought that I should have, a little bit of your food. Nabal said no. He was like, bet, I'm about to kill for it. But he was stopped because of the wisdom of Nabal's wife, right? Yeah. So we thought, oh, David's good. No, David still had some issues within him that just hadn't been highlighted yet. He didn't yet have the time, the power, and the opportunity to really exert that. So now he's king. And suddenly we're seeing who he really is, right? Yeah. So I just think that for many of us, like, we go through these Will Smith moments where we act out. We realize, wow, there's something in me. That's not an anomaly. That's a pattern. Absolutely. There's something in me that needs to be addressed, that needs to be surrendered. And I think it's an excellent opportunity for us to be praying for Will, praying for Chris Rock, praying for Jada, praying for all of us who are like them as well. So,
Daniel, got your.
There you.
Thank you.
You're safe.
Did he take it away when he
Thank you. Don't take away my Sabbath school. Don't take away my Sabbath school, please. Please.
I think even Jesus, at the sight of mistreatment and the oppressive tactics of the rich to the poor tables. We've all had moments of violence. Even the Son of God did. So I don't put it past anybody to have a rage moment.
Right.
Yeah.
My thing is, are we aware enough of ourselves to be able to understand when the rage is necessary? That's all I'm saying.
Mercy.
Am I aware of myself enough to be able to acknowledge that there is a time to flip tables, but there's a time to be silent and to turn the other cheek? Because in some cases, and this is a text that we've gotten completely wrong, there's a book called The Politics of Jesus. And he talks exactly about what it really means to turn the other cheek in their culture.
Yeah, right.
And in their culture, turning the other cheek is letting the person know that what they just took from you is not what they think they took.
Mhm.
You still stand in your power, and
That's
you are
it.
still so strong that you are still able to move the very instrument that they tried to hurt.
Mhm.
Very different than just turning the other cheek.
Right.
That's all.
So
Preach,
there is
Mota.
a time to flip tables, and there's a time to stand in your power.
Well,
Mhm.
And I was not sure in that moment
Mhm.
which one Will thought he was doing.
Mhm. I'm gonna drop this mic for you, Mota. That's all for you. That's all for you.
well, what a fantastic start. Episode 1 of the Confessions podcast, and we're just thankful for everybody who was with us tonight. We had a great turnout, guys. We had a great turnout. A lot of people came out was with us today, so we're thankful. I'm just thankful for the great panel, the Confessions panel. Believe me, this is going to be the norm now. So we'll set up whatever schedule or whatever time the next one's going to come out. I don't know when it is, but I feel like we were waiting. True story. This is what it was. So Lighthouse Media Studios is the ministry under the communications department for Northeastern, and we're literally in the process of building out our studio, and then from there we were ready to put out a whole bunch of different content, from video podcasts to cooking shows to you name it. And I was waiting for the studio to be built in order for me to start doing the podcast, but something about me today, this topic of today, and I hit up E, and I'm like, we got to do something. We have to. I said, you know what? StreamYard it is. Whatever. I don't care. And so maybe so I feel like this is what's needed. And I believe that there's an audience within Northeastern that looks a little bit like us.
Just a little.
That needs some content. That needs some content, and so we'll try to do that. We'll try to do that for you. But on behalf of myself, this wonderful team, Pastor Michelle Mota, Dr. Edsel Cadet,
Yeah.
Pastor Ingrid Pierre.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Just doing
Yeah, we're thankful.
You're trying to speak something into existence.
Come on now. And so this is us sort of signing off and thanking you guys for tuning in. This is the Confessions podcast by the Northeastern Conference Lighthouse Media Studios. And we'll see you guys next time. Say goodbye to everybody. Everybody say peace.
Bye.
Later.